These were made with students at Benito Juarez High School, and the students began by researching their homes where they live, and they almost all live in the neighborhoods, Pilsen, Little Village, and back of the yards. And so students' first assignment was to research their house and then to draw it and to imagine their home as if they were 6 millimeters tall. Things were really tough in the fall of 2016. And we needed to start talking about the future and what we needed to do in order to get to the next step, in order to survive, because people felt like their survival was threatened. But also too, a lot of this project with the houses was about making your individual unit and then seeing the whole, right? Making your one part and then putting them all together to see all of us together. I mean, that's community building. But that's what was happening at the Hull House. You know, people making a lot of individual parts for the benefit of the good, right? Not necessarily about individual authorship, but about like the well-being of everybody, right? And that people's innovation and designs would be then the benefit for everyone. We were talking about urban planning, and we thought about like, what does your community actually need? And almost all of them were like public service or public health community center type places. And so they designed that in white clay, and they all fit onto individual houses here. One of the things that made this a really radical project and to think about these as future homes was to imagine still living in these homes in the future when people were being displaced from them so quickly. That's one of the things that, you know, made it a critical project rather than just like representative of our homes. And so for most of the young people in these neighborhoods, especially after the election, when people were literally in tears worrying about raids, that for us to imagine a positive future where we could stay in our neighborhood, that was the critical side. Some of the students who were making these, who lived in Pilsen, by the time the project was finished, which was only about 2 weeks, they either found out that they had to move or they had already moved because of gentrification in the neighborhood. So the displacement was happening so quickly that it brought like a kind of intensity and an urgency to the project while we were working on it. But actually to be able to think, wow, some of the most important ceramics in Chicago was made by immigrant groups here in this site. And it only makes sense that me on this very same side of town would be engaged in this, right? You know, that does a lot for young people when they're thinking about like the role they play and you know, whether or not they have a right to engage in something that, you know, for immigrant families sometimes feels like, you know, we don't really have a right to be doing this kind of a thing, right? Working class families, same thing, right? There's a couple of different ways I think about the relationship of social justice to clay. I mean, you can make things about social justice out of clay, but I also think it's important for kids to have access to the material and to put their hands in it in the same way that kids got to have access to playgrounds, right? Taking a piece of dirt and firing it to 2,000 degrees and making it a permanent object, you know, it seems to be like it's asserting existence in another way. Honestly, like this is the kind of stuff people dig up in like 1,000 years, you know what I mean? It's forever. You really gotta feel pretty strong about a thing you make to fire it and keep it.